Thanks, George. Okay, now we're going to meet a man who also likes to build cars, but his cars will never be seen in the Soapbox Derby. Here's Nancy Zinos with that story.
The ultimate fantasy for most car enthusiasts would be to build their own one-of-a-kind sports car. Brian Robinson turned fantasy into reality by creating his own replica of the Lotus Super 7.
Well, it's a classic-looking car, and well, as you can see around the shop, I'm really into old British cars, and that's probably one of the classics of all British cars was the Lotus 7. So it was the ideal starting point. I'm also into solo and racing and things like that, and the idea was that the car could be used for that kind of thing at some point in the future. So I was building a car that was not only for the street, but also, had competition potential.
So you're going to pull on plugs? Pull some plugs and see what...
The motor itself is probably fairly special. It's based on a motor that Toyota used for the World Rally Cup cars in the early 70s. And it started out as a 1600. It's now a 2-liter motor, and it was built using some very special parts. The pistons in particular were made by Aries in California. And they're one of, I think, about 9 sets that have ever been made. The other ones were all made for Toyota and 2 private individuals, both of which I've since tracked down and talked to. So really the motor is one of about 6 that were ever built. Even though it was built over the last couple of years, it's virtually identical to that motor from the early 70s.
Any surprises along the way while building it?
Cost, yeah. It definitely it was a much more expensive project than I'd anticipated. But I think when you get into either restoring cars or building cars, if you figure it's going to cost $10,000, it'll probably cost $20,000. And that rule of thumb seems to have held right on the money for this car. It's about 2 to 1 over where I'd wanted to be and where I ended up.
How much did it cost?
Well, last time I sat down and sorted out bills, which was about a year ago, I was over $45,000. So I don't know if you figure my labor into it and that, I don't know what the car's worth really. It's, pick a number.
Robinson is a builder, not a collector. So for the right price, this car is for sale. To him, the Super 7 is like a piece of sculpture. The fun was in the creation of it, which took 3.5 years of dedication. Now that it's finished, was it as rewarding as you thought it would be?
More so. It was, the first time I drove it made it all worthwhile. We took it down the lane and back, and it was, well, I phoned my parents and friends and stuff and said, yeah, it was worth it.
So once you've completed your dream car, what could possibly be next? Well, Brian and his cohorts have already started on a new project, but this time not from the ground up, and something completely different. A full restoration of a Lotus S130 Coupe with a Lotus motor. So if you're interested in the Special 7, you'll have to buy this one. It's going to remain one of a kind.